Hey y'all, it's your girl Hope, your TV movie bestie, and I'm back with my overview of the show Matlock on CBS and Paramount. So we are currently halfway through the second season, but I wanted to do a sort of catch up recap video to bring you up to speed. Okay, so starting with season one. Uh, Now, I was already excited about this show because I grew up watching the old Matlock, Andy Griffith, from back in the day with my grandma. So I thought this was like a female reboot of that, or that she was a descendant of Andy Griffin, but it's none of that. So just kidding. Which, by the way, I am hearing that some people are just finding out that Matlock and Andy Griffin are the same people or were the same person. May he rest in peace. How did y'all not know that? Surprise. Did you also know that Opie, Andy Griffin's son on the Andy Griffin Show, is now the Ron Howard that we know, the famed director? Okay, anyways, back to Matlock, the current show. All right, so we meet Madeline Matlock, who her last name just happens to be Matlock. And so she brings that up about the old show back in the day. And she's like, ha ha ha, all through law school, people made fun of me because that was my last name or whatever, but no relation. So anyways, she goes by Maddie, and she is an older lady, and she's wanting to get back into law. She used to be a lawyer, but she retired. Now she's raising her grandson. Her husband has recently died. He was a big cheater. He left her with all this debt, and so she's got to go back into the workforce. So she finagles her way into this law firm. They decide to give her a chance and give her a job. So she starts working with Olympia. And at first, nobody is really excited that she is now being a lawyer, because they're kind of like, well, we have to give her a chance because, she could file a lawsuit against us for age discrimination, all this. And so they're just kind of like, she probably don't know nothing because she's so old. But Madeline shows that she is quite competent, and she actually turns out to be an asset to Olympia's team. And so her and Olympia become really good friends. And so that's kind of Maddie's story. She's just back in the workforce after a lot of years, trying to raise her grandson and do the right thing. Well, that's not what's going on at all. That cannot be further from the truth. So Maddie is actually happily married, and she is raising her grandson, but she's also filthy stinking rich. She don't need no money. I love her house, by the way. And so what's really going on is that Maddie is trying to get justice for her daughter's death. So her daughter was addicted to opioids, and she OD'd. And we find out that the law firm that Maddie now works for, they hid a study, a Brexit study, which I just like saying, that showed that opioids were addictive and could be dangerous if abused 10 years before we had the opioid crisis. So she blames this law firm for her daughter's death and, of course, all the other people that have died in the opioid crisis. So she feels like if she exposes them and brings it to the light, the actual person who hid the study, that she'll be vindicated. So that's what she's really doing. And her husband and her grandson are helping her behind the scenes do all this stuff. Her grandson is like a tech genius. And so he hacks systems and deletes footage and all this stuff. So this is how they get through the day. Okay, so that is the overview. Now, some things that are going on in the background is Olympia is going through a divorce. She is married to the son of Senior. Senior is the owner of the law firm, and they are sort of battling it out between the two of them, and they have twin children. And so Olympia and Madeline, they become really good friends. But at the end of the first season, Olympia finds out that Madeline has been lying to her. And so she's like, what's going on? I know you're not who you say you are. What's up? So Madeline comes clean because she's like, okay, we are friends. And, I am doing a lot of lying and sneaking around, but I do have a good reason. So she tells Olympia the entire story. And Olympia's like, oh my gosh, wow. So also we find out at the end of season 1 who is responsible for hiding the study. And it's Olympia's ex-husband. And so Olympia is like, shit, I can't let, we're divorced, but I can't let him go to jail. He's still the father of my children. And so she sort of convinces Maddie to, instead of take down her ex-husband, let's go after the bigger fish, who is Senior, because the only reason that he would have hid this study is because Senior told him to. So she goes to her ex-husband, she talks to him, and she's like, I know you hid the study, like, why did you do this? And so he's like, yeah, my dad told me to do it, and there was a lot on the line, and so I just did it. And she's like, okay, well, this is bad, and you could go to jail. And she's like, we should try to expose your father instead, because we don't want this to come out, and we don't want you to be the fault guy. And so he's kind of like, how about you just don't tell nobody? And she's like, we're lawyers. We took an oath. Like, we got to do the right thing. And so he's kind of like, all right, I guess. Because important to note here, Senior is not a good dad. Like, he is not winning any Father of the Year awards. He's pretty much asshole, and he treats his son like crap. And him and his son have a really tumultuous relationship. Of course, his son is always trying to win his love, and Senior is kind of like, yeah, nothing you do is ever really good enough. And he publicly says that, which is even more embarrassing at the law firm. But anyway, so Maddie is like, I don't really like that we're not taking down the full culprit, but I guess since Senior does own the law firm, he is ultimately responsible, and somebody has to pay for my daughter's death. So I'm willing to not go after your ex-husband and instead, put all my efforts towards Senior. So that's their plan. Now, in the meantime, they have not told Olympia's ex-husband about who Maddie really is, why she's invested in this story, any of that stuff. So none of that has come to the light. Well, getting into season 2, the ex-husband, and I forgot his name, sorry. I'm going to look it up and then I'll have it for all the other videos. But he is kind of like, I don't trust Maddie. And he's like, some of the stuff that Olympia is telling me is turning out to be a lie. Why is she lying to me? What's really going on? He's also scared that, this whole thing will come out and blow back on him. And so all the while this is happening, then Senior has a heart attack. And so, because he's thinking, maybe I should just go to my dad and tell him what's up and see what kind of advice he has. But Senior has a heart attack. So Senior's in the hospital, he's recovering. Now with the first episode into the second half of the season, Senior wakes up. And so he is seemingly perhaps a changed man. He's like, I love you, son. Thank you for being here every day. And he's not using all these words because his speech is slowly coming along. But he is just, being very kind to his son, and his son has been craving this his entire life. And so, of course, he's like, I can't let them take my daddy down. Like, I just got him back, and now, we're going to try to build this new relationship. And I'm like, sir, one heart attack ain't hardly changed this man. Like, there's also a merger going on at the company, and so there's a lot of drama with that. So I'm just like, you got to play it by ear with Senior. Like, I hear him saying nice things to you. He's saying he loves you. He's giving you your job back because his son was actually like leaving the company, but he gave him his job. And so I get that it's starting to look like the story that you would like your relationship with your father to look like. But proceed with caution. Like, come on. So anyways, also something that happened in the first half of the second season is that the ex-husband, he found out that Maddie and Olympia are working together. he overheard a conversation and he's like, what if they're really trying to take me down and Senior down? And he's like, I don't know if I can trust Olympia. And like, I definitely don't trust Maddie. And so he is thinking about just going to Senior and telling him the whole thing, and then the two of them working together against Olympia and Maddie. And so Olympia's like, we gotta give him something, like, because we gotta make him believe that we are not going to try to take him down. So she first is like, Maddie, why don't we just tell him what's going on? And Maddie's like, no, because we can't trust him. And she's like, he lied before, and Olympia, rightly so, points out like, well, aren't we lying? And haven't you been lying? We all lying. This show should be called We're All Liars. But, which is a great book. We're All Liars Here by Karen Slaughter. Anyways, I digress. Stay focused. Okay. So she's like, we got to throw him a bone because he feels like we have all the power and we're against him. We have to give him something so that he feels like they're on my side. And if they're not really on my side, I have something to use against them. So Olympia, she gives him a little nugget, which is that while she wasn't involved in the cover up of the study, she was working on the case, and that she did some kind of fraud where she tried to, she lost a necklace and then she had some footage found. Okay, so I'm a little fuzzy on that part. But anyway, she gives him some ammunition that he can use against her if she's not, really trying to work with him to bring down Senior and not against him. And then she's like, Maddie, you got to give him something. So Maddie gives him a little nugget about how she hacked into a system and deleted some footage. And so, that's a crime too. And so he's like, all right. He's not fully convinced that he can trust either one of them, but he does have two pieces of ammunition that he could potentially use. So that's kind of where we're at that first episode. It's good, y'all. It's really, really good. I love the partnership and friendship between Maddie and Olympia. I like that Senior's the bad guy. And they're kind of trying to work against him, but I don't believe he's going to go down. I don't think he's going to answer for his crimes. And if he did, wouldn't the show be over? And I don't want the show to be over. So, I don't know how that's going to go down, but there are other characters on the show. I didn't get into those because I'll delve into those on the weekly episodes, but, good storylines with them too. And there actually is real legal cases every week that they present and go through, which are actually kind of interesting. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know anything about the law other than how to not get in trouble with it, but it's very interesting. So if you guys are watching, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you like this show? If you're not watching, do you think you might want to watch after this review or what? But each week I'll be going through the episodes, so I will be linking those below. Keep watching and like and subscribe and let me know your thoughts. Until the next episode, bye besties.